The Nigerian Labor Congress has threatened a nationwide strike, unless the federal government returns billions of naira that it claims were taken from the workers' insurance contributions. The NLC accused the government of diverting 40% of the contributions from the Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund into the National Treasury. These contributions, which come from payroll deductions, are intended to provide workers with social protection in case of job loss or injury. Now, in a strongly worded statement, NLC President Joe Ajero emphasized that pension funds are meant to be deferred wages, not government revenue, and warned that further interference would lead to industrial action. Meanwhile, the NLC rejected a memo from the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation, which sought to bar civil servants from participating in partisan politics. The union deemed the directive unconstitutional, referencing prior legal rulings that permit civil servants to engage in politics, and said the matter had already been addressed during the 2023 general elections. Time now for a conversation about the labor strike notification, its aversion to civil servants resigning before joining politics, and more. We have the head of information from the department at the Nigerian Labor Congress, Ben Upah, joining us now from our Abuja studio. Great to have you join us here on Newsday, Mr. Upah.
It's my pleasure.
Well, with the 7-day ultimatum having been issued to the federal government, we are in the 6th day. It's about to expire tomorrow. What is the NLC's definitive next step?
There is an appropriate organ meeting coming to decide our next step. That meeting is coming on Monday.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us, sir. Now, very importantly, there has been, the government is saying that they do not want civil servants to participate in partisan politics. Now, part of why is because we want to uphold trust and remove favoritism from our civil service. So why do you believe that civil servants should be able to participate in partisan politics?
Thank you for this question. First, I'll refer you to Section 40 of the Constitution, which states that every person shall be entitled to assemble freely and associate with other persons. Second, I will also refer you to the pronouncement by Chief Justice Mohammed Lawal Uwais, as he then was, in a landmark judgment in the case between INEC, AGF versus Musa. He stated inter alia, the provisions of Section 40 of the 1999 Constitution are clear. Their import is to allow every person, including public office holders and civil servants, the freedom to assemble and associate with other persons, to form and belong to any political party or trade union or any association for the protection of their interests, unquote. Given the force of Section 40 of our Constitution, which is the ground norm, and the force of the pronouncement by the Supreme Court, which is the apex court, I do not think the head of the Federal Civil Service or anybody has the competence to vary or abridge the intendment of the pronouncement of the Constitution and the Supreme Court. In fact, the two forces combined are enormous. There is nothing to add, there's nothing to reduce. So at the head of service is advised in her own enlightened self-interest to focus on her core issues, her core business, and to desist from treating civil servants like ornaments on a shelf inanimate objects. And in any case, civil servants have not been the problem of our electoral process. We all know where the problem comes from, okay? And I'm not going to waste my precious energy lecturing Nigerians on where the problem comes from. For Nigerians are acutely aware, they know the sources of our electoral problems. And particularly when you have a political elite that is determined to fail, a political elite that is not ready to learn, that has no intention to play or live by the rules. No one should hang that on the civil servants. They should leave civil servants alone.
Fair enough. I want to go back to talking about the workers' payment. Now, the NSITF has admitted that 50% of the workers' contributions were deducted. How does this admission on their part affect your strategy, the NLC strategy, and what does it say about the government's handling of workers' funds, knowing that the pension funds are deferred wages? How does the government's diversion of these funds violate the very spirit and letter of the Pension Reform Act?
First, let me explain that admission of commission of an offense doesn't extinguish the liability for the commission of that offense. So the fact that government has admitted that it did ABC in respect to these funds does not remove the enormity, the implications, the consequences for the Nigerian workers. However, what it does is that it reduces the extremity of tension. If somebody says, okay, I have done this, and there is sufficient remorse to undo what the person has done, of course, it reduces tension. That is all it does, but it does not eliminate, the commission of that offense. And let me say, what government did was extremely bad, and it was a measure of greed taken too far. You see, these funds are not government's funds. These funds are contributions by workers and employers for a rainy day, for workers who might run into trouble via injury, death, termination, and all of that. These are not government's funds. And government, for goodness sake, should focus on its funds. Government makes billions of naira, if not trillions of naira, every day. It should focus on how to manage this. In fact, it's because of the deficit of social protection services or covers in Nigeria that actually informed the setting aside, the decision to set aside these NSI-type funds. For government to now crawl and take this away, no. Which reminds me that government has also stretched its hands to PENCOM funds. This should never happen. These funds are set aside for the vulnerable working people, okay? Preparatory for a rainy day. And let me tell you something. Before the establishment of a contributory pension scheme, we had the defined benefit scheme. But government killed it. One, by not funding it, and in some instances, when it was funded, government took away that money, diverted the money. So that left flat civil servants who retired from service. And many of them died miserably Others lived on their bones. Others managed to limp, either blind or completely wrecked. So that was what informed the decision of the government of Chief Olusegun Obasanjo now to mute and put in place the contributory pension scheme. So for government now to begin to eye even these funds that are contributions by workers, this is not defined benefits funds. Now, these are funds contributed by workers and their employers. So government has no business eyeing these funds, let alone taking these funds to apply to other programs of its. No, it is not wrong. It is not right.
Okay.
I'll call this hideous greed. It's not good.
Okay, thank you. Now, I want to ask about something that doesn't necessarily have to do with these funds, but it does have to do with government. Now, the RMAFC, the Revenue Mobilization and Allocation Fiscal Commission, is mulling over reviewing political office holders' salaries, including possibly increasing them, saying that they're not right for the times. Says that the president's monthly salary, I believe, is 1.5 million naira a month, and ministers 1 million naira a month. And they're saying that these salaries are too low. However, as we know, the minimum wage is 70,000. Do you believe that we should be reviewing upwards the salaries of our political office holders? And if so, do you believe that we should also review upwards the minimum wage? I think we're having technical...
Well,
oh, okay, you can hear me. Good.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, they move by the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation, and Fiscal Responsibility Commission to increase the wages or allowances of political office holders is insensitive, unjust, and inequitable, and will only succeed in deepening the growing inequality between civil servants and political office holders. Put in another way, as it is, political office holders have perks and perquisites, ways and means known and unknown, and quite a number of advantages known to law and unknown to law. With most civil servants, this does not apply. And in any case, this absolutely has nothing to do with minimum wage. Let me just explain this. There is a difference between having a minimum wage reviewed and salaries or wages reviewed across board. I think the last time, and I stand to be corrected because I didn't check my papers before I listened, but I think the last time, wage review was done for civil servants. I'm not sure it was more than 50%. But the one that was done for political office holders was about 300%. Okay? Here we are again. There's going to be another one. Let me explain. There is a difference between minimum wage and wage review for civil servants. Okay? So given this scenario, it is unfair and unjust to now want to raise the wages or salaries of political office holders. I heard the chairman of that commission say that the president earns less than $1 million. Who does the president feed? Yeah, with his salary. Who does he feed? Does the president fuel his cars? So, that is, it is completely, when people begin to argue like this, it is as if they are from Mars. They are not from here. Okay? So, the people who need their wages are the people whose wages should be enhanced or raised. I heard him also say that his commission is not responsible for wages of workers or minimum wage. Quite true. We do know the difference between his commission and Salaries and Wages Commission. But of course, the two commissions do exist in an entity known as Nigeria. Okay? So, so we expect more sensitivity from the chairman than this level of callousness. Thank you.
Fair enough. And what policy changes would the NLC be advocating in order to clarify the legal framework that ensures that civil servants can actually exercise their rights to politically joining office without jeopardizing any of their professional career expertise or their integrity within the civil service?
Well, I have just quoted our Constitution, which is known as a ground norm, and I've just quoted the statement or the pronouncement made by our former CGN. With that, the only thing that is left is the devil. The saying goes, the devil is in the details. It's simply to sit down and work out the details. That's all. If not, the matter speaks for itself. What do the lawyers say? They say, res ipso loquitur. So this matter speaks for itself clearly. So, but we can sit down, we are prepared to sit down to work out the details. But for goodness sake, the head of civil service, Mrs. Wilson Jack, should focus on her job. She should not cage in civil servants. She should not do that. That will amount to unnecessary obsequiousness. That is not loyalty. That is not loyalty. And let me tell you something. We keep talking about strong institutions. The civil service is an institution in any country to be respected. And the years gone by, we had a civil service that spoke true to leadership. I recall the case. I recall the story that the late General Hassan shared with my good friend Mahmoud Jega when he was governor of Northern Region and needed a plot of land. The permanent secretary said, no, you are not entitled to this. We can't give you. That was a permanent secretary talking to the governor of the entire Northern Region. So why can't why can't the head of service, Mrs. Wilson Jack, even negotiate for more leg room, for more rights for civil servants? Where did she get the audacity to come and say civil servants cannot do this, civil servants cannot do that? Was that what brought her to the peak of her career? No. We should learn to build strong institutions, and it is within her remit to ensure that the civil service is strong, independent, and yet work in a coordinated manner with the political leadership, but not to bring it under the table for anybody to trample on. This cannot happen. If this continues, we can't get out of the mess that we're in. Our institutions must not only work, they must be seen to be working, and the only way they can do that is for them to self-regenerate, self-empower. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Ben Upah, for joining us on Newsday.